You're watching The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez. Here on the show, we routinely have politicians and recently lots of candidates on talking about the economy, talking about both creating jobs and keeping them here in Connecticut. Today, we are hoping to add to that perspective by having a lawmaker and a business advocate here together. We're happy to have with us Representative Sean Williams of the 68th District and Gary O'Connor, Chair of the Board of Directors for the Waterbury Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thanks, both of you, for being here. I understand that you loaded up a bus this week and you took business owners and advocates up to the Capitol. Tell me about that trip, what you were hoping to do, and what you got done, you think?
Well, we had a busload of business people and their employees, and then we had a caravan of cars that followed us up to the state capitol. And we came to the Capitol with a simple message, and that's that the welfare of the state of Connecticut and the welfare of the good employees of the state of Connecticut are inextricably intertwined with the financial health and well-being of businesses. If businesses are shut down because of a bad business climate and bad legislation that hurts the business community, there'll be no jobs, and people won't be able to support their families, they won't be able to pay their mortgages, and it has that unfortunate effect. And the biggest losers are the good workers of the state of Connecticut.
Do you think that there has been, that there is a bad business climate and bad legislation?
Well, if you talk to our members, they'll tell you that they've been hurt very hard. And it's not just the deficit, and it's not just the taxes, it's the innumerable mandates that are out there. And every time there's another mandate, it costs a small business money. For instance, they're advocating the new sick leave bill, and that will cost the small businessmen money and will force some of them to go out of business, and it will force some of them to lay off people, and that's not what we want.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Senate Bill 63 would mandate that companies with 50 or more employees allow their workers to earn sick days. Sean, tell us about the debate at the Capitol over that.
Listen, there's a lot of bills, Lori, at the Capitol, as you know, that sound like great ideas and sound like they would help working families, but in the interim, they would wind up harming the small businesses that actually employ those working families. And that's the biggest struggle that we have at the Capitol, is how do we balance the interest of working families and small businesses to create an economic environment where everybody can survive and be happy. A bill like this would be very harmful to the business community. Actually, today at the Capitol, there was a big public hearing on this. We had small business owners from across the state testifying against it, recognizing that they're already doing a good job. They're doing the best they can to survive in this economic climate. We shouldn't be doing anything to hurt their growth, especially in a time when we've lost 90-plus thousand jobs in the last 18 months.
But what do you do when your constituents come and say, Representative Williams, I'm a part-time worker, I'm a mom, I literally cannot afford to take days off of work. So I go to work and I'm sick, and I put my fellow workers and the people that I serve at risk?
That's a great question. The reality is, if we keep driving businesses further and further into the ground, there's no jobs for that working mom. And so my message to that person is, hang in there. We're trying to help you, or at least there are some of us at the Capitol that are trying to help you, trying to create an environment where more businesses come into Connecticut and there's more competition for working people. There's more competition amongst employers to bring working people into their companies. So it's a hard struggle right now, because Connecticut has one of the worst tax climates in the country. We have one of the highest electricity rates in the country. We have amongst the highest health insurance rates in the country. So it's a big struggle that we have just down the street at the Capitol. We're trying to fight it, and we're trying to win.
But when you hear something like that, we have taxes and health and all that, it seems like so overwhelming. How are we going to change that climate, and quickly?
Well, if it could happen overnight, we'd be a huge success. But I think we can make it happen. I think we just have to kind of turn the attitude and make people feel that there is the government is working with them, and that they're on their side, and they're going to help preserve and promote small and mid-sized businesses. And that's kind of what we tried to do yesterday. And we tried to explain to our businessmen that, look, if you want things to change fundamentally, you have to become part of the process, and you have to engage. Unfortunately, the small and mid-sized business owner is too busy and wrapped up in his business to get involved in the political process. But if things are going to change, they need to engage, and that yesterday was the first step.
Let's talk about the. Do you agree with Governor Rowell's proposal for that $500 million small business tax credit? Is that going to help?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction, and I think that I think she understands that if you can help small business, you'll create more jobs and you'll help the workers of the state. But I think that a systemic look at the whole budget has to be done. Right now, I mean, we passed the budget, and then 2 or 3 months later, it was announced we had a $500 million deficit. 2012, we're looking at a $3 billion deficit, and we won't have the stimulus money or the rainy day fund to shore up those holes. So we really have to take a hard look at the budget, because you can't go back to the workers, you can't go back to the business people and say we're going to tax our way out of this problem.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know that when, for instance, the governor says we're going to form a commission, we're going to form this 24-person bipartisan commission to look at government spending, you have to know that people at home are like, oh my God, another commission? Like,
you know what? I thought that, Lori, when I first heard about it. And last night at the Waterbury Regional Chamber State of the State dinner, she made the case that it's going to be sort of like the BRAC Commission, the Base Realignment and Closing Commission, that they're going to take politics out of it. I think a lot of people say, why do we need another commission? We don't need to study anything else. The problem is that inherently the legislature has been unwilling to make tough decisions to cut the budget to a level where it's acceptable, where taxpayers and working people are not being forced another burden upon them. So, it's a struggle that we have. But back to that small business loan issue that you talked about briefly. It recognizes that credit needs to be, opened up for small businesses. So that's a good thing. What it doesn't recognize, unfortunately, is that, we have the highest energy costs in the country, or amongst the highest health care costs, the highest taxes, and there seems to be a lack of recognition down the street at the Capitol that that's the case, that we need to help small businesses. So it's a good step in the right direction, like Gary said, but it's not the be-all and end-all.
Well, it's almost as if you're going to loan them money to pay all that stuff.
Right.
Right. Just real quickly, because it does affect your region, what is your opinion about creating that reopening that Waterbury to Hartford rail line?
I think it's a nice idea, but I'd rather see the money go in improving the line between Bridgeport and Waterbury. That's part of the Metro North line, and I think it could open up a lot of opportunity for the greater Waterbury area if we had a really efficiently running line between Bridgeport and Waterbury. So that would be my first priority as far as rails are concerned.
I would agree with Gary. I mean, I know people in my district and a little bit south who commute to New York every day or commute down to Fairfield County, and it is a wretched commute.
Yeah.
You see it every morning here, what the commute looks like. It's terrible, so I agree with Gary.
Excellent. Thank you both for coming here. I know it's a tough fight that you all have ahead of you. Representative Sean Williams and Gary O'Connor from the Waterbury Regional Chamber.